Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out another brand new Mattel Jurassic World Dino Trackers release, as we've got ourselves another sauropod in the Mattel line. This is the Nigersaurus, and this one looks super cool actually. Like, the first few images I had seen of it, I was a little unsure as how nice it would look. I didn't think it looked that great, but having it here and just taking a look at it here in the packaging, like, it actually looks so much better than I expected it to be, which has me pretty hyped to break it out of the packaging and check it out. But you can see the packaging itself is, again, just basically the Dino Trackers packaging that we've seen quite a few times already, but you can see a nice little image in the background there, of course, of the habitat where you would find yourself the Nigersaurus. But here on the back, you can get an idea of what the action feature is for the figure, making it almost look like it's a two-headed sauropod. And then you can see down here images of all of the other figures that are in this wave of Wild Roars, all of which we have reviewed on the channel now, except for the Irritator, which is coming very soon. So, let's pop this out of the box and check it out. And here is our Nigersaurus, and wow, that one is really nice. Like, way better than I expected it to be. Super impressive looking detail throughout. Pretty nice looking, pretty naturalistic looking paint scheme. And the tail has a, decent amount of length to it. Not super long, but I would say pretty darn nice, especially when you look back to some previously released sauropods that have had really short tails. Like the Ankylosaurus, this one definitely has, a better looking tail length. So really cool looking here at first glance, but let's jump to a closer look and really check this very cool looking sauropod figure out right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see again straight away we first of all have that very unique appearance to the Nigersaurus that you would like to see. Again, that very different looking head sculpt that you would expect to see, and it looks really nice. I can say though, it would have been nice to have the teeth painted on the inside of the mouth, which we don't have going on, but I guess that's not the end of the world. You can see though that the mouth is sculpted in an open position. You can also see the nostrils there, and the skin texture looks absolutely phenomenal as you move through the head. Lots of really, well, we lost focus, but lots of really nice, really vibrant scale detail as you move through the head sculpt of the Nigersaurus. You can also see that we've got a nicely painted eye with a yellow and a black pupil. As you begin to move down into the neck, you start to see this darker green pick up and kind of design here as you move along the neck. You've also got like these very large ridge-like sort of osteoderms and stuff that pick up and move down the course of not only the spinal column, but also along the sides of the neck. So very unique looking as far as that goes. You can also see that we've got a smaller line of osteoderms moving down here in this area. And you can see that as we lead down from the face, we've got some finer skin texture, finer scaling here in the face. But as we move into the neck, the scale detail starts to increase in size, and we get a much larger version of the scale detail moving down. But we do still continue to have that smaller, more fine scale detail here on the underside. We also have a nice lighter tone of color here running along the underside of the throat of the dinosaur, and the transition to that coloration is incredibly smooth. As we move down here into the neck, you start to see that darker green increase as far as the amount that you see here on the body. As you move into the upper part of the dinosaur, you now see a pretty healthy dose of that dark green starting to overtake the top of the dinosaur. You can also see more of those lighter greens kind of battling back and forth with those darker greens, looking really cool. We can see ridges there on the top of the back of the dinosaur. You can see more kind of scoots moving along here, more here. So we've got quite a few of those here, quite a few rows of those moving through the body. You can again see that the scale detail continues to remain pretty large here, moving along the back of the dinosaur. As you move down here into the leg, you can see some nice muscle definition. We've also got the elbow sculpted out back there, some nice creasing in the wrist, and a nice looking foot sculpt as well. And again, unfortunately, the nails are not painted, but we don't usually get painted nails on most, Mattel figures and stuff unless it's like the Hammond collection or the occasional Raptor or T-Rex. You can, though, now see that the darker green is really overtaking the body, especially in the stomach region. You've got a few skin wrinkles here in the lower part of the stomach. Nice big bulging belly here on our Nigersaurus. And then as you move back up here, you again see more of that light green, but that's the last little bit that we see as we move back out a little further. You can see the Jurassic Facts app code right there, which we will actually pull out right now just to give you a shot of it before I forget, because I do have a bad habit of forgetting. There you go, if you would like to add that to your collection. But again, as you move out here, you now see that the dark green has overtaken pretty much the entire body. As you move down into the thigh, you've got a few more kind of scoots moving along the top of the thigh. Some more really nice looking scale detail moving down, as well as the muscle definition, again, nicely defined. You've got the knee right there. You've got some large clusters of scales there on the musculature of the calf, which is very interesting looking. And then as you lead down into the foot sculpt, the rear foot sculpt looks nice as well. Again, no painted nails, as it is basically just the dark green of the foot. And then as we move back up here, we again have more of those sort of like scoots or ridges or whatever you want to call them moving along, as they're starting to kind of combine here as you move up, and now they just kind of cluster together here as you move out into the tail. And the tail is just that dark green that we see up there in the dinosaur, and like the hip region, you can see it starts to be almost entirely green, and that's all we have for the tail as you move out. Nice curve to the tail, though, as you lead out, just to add a little extra life to our sauropod. And here on the underside, you can again see how nice that finer scaling looks as you move through. Even nice looking sculpt and detail on the undersides of the feet of the Nigersaurus. But if we take a look over here, first of all, we can see that that lighter tone, that light green that runs along the underside of the neck, does taper off here in the chest region before completely disappearing. But primarily the figure is probably going to look the same over here. You can see, yeah, pretty much looks the same as you move down the course of the neck and down into the body. Not a whole lot of difference. The legs are positioned differently. Of course, being an articulated figure, you can position them however you want, but as far as like the stance that it comes in when you get it, you can see again that they are positioned a little bit further apart on this side, more so than closer together on the opposing side, but not too far off that it really creates a massive difference in the visual of the figure. But I will say it's definitely a really, really cool looking version of a Nigersaurus, and way, way better than I expected it to be. As far as the articulation goes, we do have articulation in the neck, but I'm going to go ahead and say that's probably part of the action feature, which would then cause the noises to start. So I don't want to do that quite yet, but we do have leg articulation. You know, you can go back, forward, and out away from the body, which is nice to have quite a bit of range of movement there. You can also articulate the rear leg, again, back and forward, and out away from the body. Not a whole lot, just maybe only a tiny bit, but not near as much as I expected. And then, of course, you can swivel the tail if you would choose to, but that kind of jumbles up the details, so it's not the best idea. But as far as the action feature itself goes, you've got a little button up here, just like the others have had, where we kind of rotate it. It just interrupted me. Where we kind of rotate it to activate the action feature. So we will hear the noises, but we'll try to focus on the action feature first. So the action feature is kind of strange. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's much of a defensive action feature, which is normally what you get when it comes to a dinosaur like this. It almost looks like it's more of like an action feature for the dinosaur to lift its head and start eating out of a tree. But I mean, I guess it could be clubbing something with its head, so it can potentially be some sort of like a defensive action feature. But we'll try to hear the noises now. Definitely some nice herbivore noises. For a size lengthwise, you're looking at about the 13.5-inch range, or about 34 centimeters in height. The highest point would probably be the tail, so we'll say about 4¼ inches, or just shy of 11 centimeters. And then for the height, a little under 4 inches, or a little under 10 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Nigersaurus, the Wild Roar Nigersaurus. And you can see it does have a pretty good size to it, but being a Wild Roar figure, you kind of expect it to. And for another comparison, we have a Mattel Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus here to stand by our Nigersaurus to give you another idea of a size. We've also got the adult version of Bumpy here next to the Nigersaurus, which you can see the Nigersaurus is definitely quite a bit larger than Bumpy, definitely way longer, showing that this figure does have some pretty decent size to it. We've also got the Orcoraptor here, but looking at this next to the Orcoraptor definitely has some pretty good size to it. So now the Nigersaurus looks quite a bit smaller, but still does win in length for sure. It definitely is a bit longer. As well as the Hammond Collection Parasaurolophus, who I've used for quite a few comparisons lately, because of why not? It's a great figure, why not bring it in? It's also a popular one, so I figured it'd be a good one for a comparison. And then for one final comparison, here is a Mattel Iguanodon next to our Nigersaurus, just for one really cool herbivore comparison. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Dino Trackers Wild Roar Nigersaurus is actually really cool and probably one of my favorite figures to come from the Wild Roar line overall, which is really impressive considering my expectations were kind of low for this one. I don't know what it is about it. When I had originally seen the promotional images and stuff, I just didn't think it looked all that great. I think one of the things that threw me off the most were the colors. Like, I felt like the colors originally didn't look that great and kind of had like an somewhat unpainted feel to it, but having it here in person and actually looking at it, I actually feel the complete opposite. I think the coloration looks really nice on it, way better than I was expecting it to, really nice and natural while still having a bit of flashiness to it. So definitely a really nice paint job. Of course, it could have had a little more of that light green running through the course of the body out onto the tail. Definitely could have helped, but even still, I think the coloration looks quite nice. The sculpt as well is unreasonably detailed, like absolutely gorgeous when it comes to the sculpt and fine detail. It's exceptionally vibrant as well, as most Mattel figures usually are, especially nowadays. I feel like they've just amped up their quality drastically over the last few years, and you can see that as you look through this figure. Again, the sculpt is extremely vibrant and has an insane amount of skin texture and scale detail. Mattel honestly doesn't get commended enough, I think, for how good their fine detail is on their figures, because it is absolutely phenomenal. On top of that, we've got some pretty fun articulation, which is always a plus, and a pretty cool action feature. Nothing really to write home about, but I mean, it's alright for what it is, I guess. We do also have some pretty cool noises, which is pretty fun, and they definitely all sound like herbivore noises that you could potentially hear from this species of dinosaur. So as a whole, this is actually a really, really cool figure, and way better than I thought it was going to be. So if you are interested in picking one up for yourself, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on Big Bad Toy Store. So make sure you check that link, go grab this really nice looking Nigersaurus, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.